Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have an amazing actor to talk with. You might know him, Darin Brooks, star of Bold and the Beautiful for, I think, 8 years, playing the role of Wyatt Spencer. Let's meet him. Let's talk to him. Let's find out about his world. Darin?
Hey, how are you?
Great to meet you.
You
It's,
too.
I feel like I know you through Kelly, your gorgeous wife. But
Exactly.
yeah. So I don't know you. And you know what? I want the world that listens to my podcast to get to know you in case they don't know you. So I wanna, you've been on this soap opera. Of course, I'm diving right in for so many years. And was that your goal when you first started acting? Were you in comedy? What like, because things happen and people pivot and they do different things that the unexpected happens. So how did it all happen for you?
Yeah, you never know what your trajectory is, I guess, in this whole town and business and everything. But I I'm born and raised in Hawaii, and I got the acting bug in high school. Actually, is where it all starts. Um, I used to watch movies all the time. Top Gun was one of my favorite movies. I'm like, I want to be a fighter pilot. You know what I mean? Growing up, a kid, my mom was like, "Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. I think they need 20/20 vision, so might be SOL." And I was like, "Dang it!" She's like, "But then you can maybe be an actor. You can play one on TV." And I was like, okay, maybe I could do that."
And
Um,
first of all, can I just interrupt because Maui, Hawaii is my favorite place in the whole wide world, and I do an actors retreat there every single year.
oh
Well,
my god,
starting 4 years ago, which we didn't do this year, obviously because of COVID, but that is my heavenly place.
oh, it's amazing. You step off the plane and you feel the difference. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
all the tension just goes away. If you've never
Everything.
been to any island in Hawaii, guys,
Yeah. The
it's
first breath off the plane, you're just like clean. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're in a
It's
yoga state of mind. It is incredible.
oh
Okay,
yeah,
so you're so lucky that you were raised there. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. My parents are both from California, but my dad's a surfer, and my mom wanted bluer water one day, and they were like, okay, let's go. And they had visited before because a friend of theirs had a place there, and they just fell in love with it, and they just kind of packed up and moved out there before I was born, and they had me out there. I was there for till I was 18, 19, and then I came out to LA.
That
Um,
is incredible. They never had, or you ever had growing up island fever, or you didn't know the difference, but they never
well, well, that's the thing. My mom was a flight attendant back in the day for
had.
TWA. So she was like, I want you guys to see the world. So Christmas time, my grandpa lived in Lake Tahoe. We'd go see him. My other aunts and uncles are like Northern California. We'd go see them. We trips with our cousins up and down both coasts, like to see the national parks and all that stuff. When we were kids, we took a trip to Italy and France, and my mom wanted us to see Europe, so it was like we did all that stuff as kids. And of course, we were snot-nosed kids going, "I just want to go back home and see my friends. Like, I don't appreciate the Sistine Chapel; it's old." And then, like now, I'm going, I want to take Kelly and I want to take Everly and I want to show them like what I saw. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's so funny how like it comes back full circle.
It is because when you're young, you don't appreciate the culture and all the gloriousness of this world and what it has to offer. But
No.
when you get older, oh,
Yeah. I would
desire, the need, and the appreciation. Oh,
yeah, I keep telling her, I'm like, let's just pack up and let's just go move to France for like a couple of months and just, post up and just do something different for a little bit,
do
you know?
it. Okay, so you started in high school.
Yeah, sorry, tangent.
Okay.
Started in high school. I was in rock bands growing up a lot. Our family was very, my mom always kind of pushed us to do music and stuff. So we learned piano, guitar, bass, drums, like we did all kinds of stuff. And my brother in high school wanted to do like a rock band and do like Blink-182 covers and Green Day and Sublime. Like that was one of his favorite bands back in the day. So we would do a lot of music stuff. And then we would play like concerts, and we would do like little things during lunchtime at the school and the high school and all that. And then one day one of my friends came up to me and said, well, we know you can sing, like why don't you come in and try out for the play? We're doing Into the Woods, why don't you try out for Cinderella's Prince? And I was like, ah, I don't I don't know. I mean, I've never really done that
Right.
before. They're like, it's fun. And we get together, we build the sets and all that. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to remember the lines. And she's like, trust me, by the end of it, you'll know the whole script like by heart. And I'm like, just give me a smaller part. Just give me something smaller. So she's like, well, we're cutting down the script a little, we're making Rapunzel's prince a little smaller. Why don't you do that? And I was like, okay. And we did it and started doing the play and all that. And by the end of it, I knew all the lines and I was like, I could have had a bigger part. This is so much fun.
That's
Um,
funny.
and but it was great. It was a great experience. Doing that for school.
It really
And
is an addiction. It really, the minute you feel that connection with your audience, there's nothing better.
yeah, and it was it was just that amazing feeling of, yeah, like you said, connecting with your audience, hearing them laugh when they're supposed to laugh, or
Oh,
the dead silences, when it's supposed to be something dramatic or whatever. You just kind of like fell in love with that. And then I got into some acting classes and stuff like that in Hawaii. And it was just sort of one thing after another where I was like, I want to kind of pursue this.
yeah.
um and did like extra work on Adam Sandler movies that would come into Hawaii, and
Oh
I'm
my
the
God,
guy in the
that's so
background
funny.
with a
That's
fishing pole,
hilarious.
but just getting set experience, and trying to go after that.
It's very important to have set experience. I don't recommend doing extra work more than 2 to 3 times, but
Right.
just just because you're not treated very nicely on the sets, but to do it as sort of an education and how it all works, I say
Right.
yes, do that.
Right. And surprisingly enough, though, like on, especially probably just because it's an Adam Sandler movie and stuff like that, it was just sort of like everybody was cool and we had a blast, and it was like, it was great. But that's how I got my Taft Hartleys. That's how I got in the union. I did featured extra stuff in some of those movies and TV shows that came in, and that's how I got my SAG card in Hawaii. Um,
Oh, fascinating. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Can I
yeah.
just tell you a quick thing about Adam Sandler? I know I'm getting off you, but I just have to tell you, I used to live in this complex and I was an actress way back in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And I was on a syndicated series with a roommate. And in this whole complex, it was like Melrose Place, but down below was Adam Sandler and his roommate, Judd Apatow. They were
Wow.
roommates. And
Crazy.
Judd would never come out. And he was always like, I have a bad sinus infection. I'm writing. He was writing and writing and writing always.
Right.
And Adam and Colin Quinn and all these people before Saturday Night Live were always coming over. And I couldn't figure out why they were always coming over. And Adam would be like, candy, give me candy, working out his characters. But then I realized why they came over because my roommate, I'm not going to say her name, whenever you open the front door, she was laying naked on her bed and her bedroom was open. Anyway, that's my Adam Sandler story.
Fair enough. Sounds like something like those guys would probably be doing at
Well,
that
it
time.
wasn't really Adam doing it, it was the other
Right.
people that
Right.
were about to be on Saturday Night Live. I don't know why I just had to tell that story because you brought up Adam Sandler, but this is about you. So go ahead.
No, but I love that. I love those kind of stories, about the the history of people and characters, you know. Um, but yeah, that was sort of my thing, and I jumped into some acting classes. I started doing some modeling work. I was like, I just want to like do stuff and try and make some money and whatever. Um, and then I think it was a casting director, Kathy Henderson, who was doing
I remember her.
she
Yes.
was doing a thing on Kauai. I think she was doing a casting actors,
Yeah.
showcase type of thing, come out and Hollywood, casting director come
Okay.
meet her. And I just was like, I told my mom, I was like, I should go, like, we should go do this. And she's like, all right, let's go. And we went, and she did like some cold reading scenes, and I did it, and she was like, look, she pulled me aside, she said, look, you're green, but you got a interesting, like, you got a good look, and like, if you really want to pursue this, like, call me, or email me if you ever come to LA. And I was like, okay, cool. And I kept just sort of doing my classes, and finally I met another producer, Chris Lee, who's a Hawaii boy as well.
Mhm.
And I met him through my acting showcase. I did a monologue, and he had said to me, on the side too, he said, you're pretty good, you're green and stuff, but you got a good look and like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, if I ever come to LA, can I like hit you up, and just pick your brain? He's like, yeah, sure. So, the signs were kind of pointing that direction, and
Yes.
I
Can I
was,
can I interject one thing? When someone
yeah.
says to you, "You're green," Now
Yeah.
I know what that means, but let's address that for a second because
Yeah.
when actors are new and they go in and they get their feedback, you were good, but you were green. They're
Mhm.
like, what does that mean? What does
I
that
had
mean?
I had no idea what it meant at the time. I was like, am I a little pale? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Well,
my hand looks good. I think I'm
what
okay.
it does mean is what? Put it in your own words. What does it mean?
It's just, I mean, it's just a term for inexperienced. Like you can tell that it's like it's new and excited, almost overly excited. But just inexperienced is basically what it is, and needs to be sort of honed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think
Oh,
is sort of
that's a good word. Being honed
yeah,
in because you're a little bit too excited, even though you should be, and everyone feels it to this day. If you're getting a job, you're feeling it. You know how to contain it and kind of hide it. But I think
exactly.
honed in the way of telling the story on the page and
Yes.
getting specific in the material. So it's not a little bit green is a little bit vague, a little bit on top of the words.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And when you're green, you don't know you're doing it.
No, when you're green, you don't know you're green. They tell you you're green. You just go, I don't know what that means, but I mean, okay, cool. You know,
You finally made it here. Was getting on a soap your first gig? What was your first job?
it was. I had I came out here. I sort of pursued the connections and picked people's brains, and
Good.
they introduced me to these people, these people, these people. Kathy Henderson actually is the one who set up a meeting with my first agent, Joel Dean.
Oh, jeez.
I
Amazing.
love Joel Dean. He was such a good dude. I mean, he passed away recently, a couple of years ago, I think. Just
Yeah.
such a wonderful old Hollywood man. You know what I mean? Like he was cool. Like I went into his office, I remember, and I was wearing like these Costco baggy jeans and like an Aloha shirt. And he looks me up and down and he goes, "Look, you got a good look. I saw your tape. Looks good. You're a little green. We'll get you into some acting classes, but you need to change your wardrobe. Like this is not going to work. You look like a young Chris Atkins from Blue Lagoon, but let's do this. I had blonde hair. It was crazy. But I signed with him because he was great and he really cared about me and all that stuff. And he just sent me out on a ton of auditions, and most of the auditions, not most of them, but like a bunch of them were soap auditions.
Mm.
Because I was green and because I was in acting classes, sorry, tangent, soaps was my first job.
Yeah.
Um, well, second, there's a buddy of mine, Toby Wilkins, is a director. He gave me my first small part
What was
as
it?
smoker number one in like this little short film that he did, and I was just like, cool, I got my credit. He's like, I'll give you your first
But
credit.
how excited were you to be smoker number one? Come on.
I had no idea. I was just like, cool, this is great. My first credit. He's like, we'll put it up on IMDb. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but great. Um, but it was cool. It was interesting. Did that little bit, and then yeah. So at the time, my auditions we had a lot of soap stuff. It was good training. I at the my first soap actually was Days of Our Lives. I did that for 4 years. That was my first paid job ever. Like that was my first family in Hollywood.
Beautiful.
Um, and I remember my dad, or I called my dad when I booked the job, and he was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, hey, so what are you guys doing?" He's like, "Oh, we're just a Home Depot with your brother." I was like, "Well, do you watch soap operas?" And he's like, no. Why? I'm like, well, you might have to start watching one because I'm going to be on Days of Our Lives, for the next 3 years or whatever. And he was like,
Oh.
oh, okay, cool. And I was like, okay. And I hung up, and he didn't, he wasn't like super excited about it. And I was like, what the hell? What just happened? And I get a call from my cousin like a little while later, and my cousin's like, your dad's so excited. He's calling everybody and telling everybody what's going on, and he's so happy and proud of you. And I'm like, cool, because he didn't tell me on the phone.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
But it was just he didn't know how to react. You know what I mean? But
Course.
I was going 5 nights a week because I just wanted to immerse myself in everything. I would you can act in one class that you're in, but then you can audit all the others and come watch. I think you do the same thing with your classes, right? Everybody can come watch,
Oh
and
God.
it's how you soak it
It
up.
is about immersing yourself because the more you want it and the more you train in it and the more you
Yeah.
desire it,
Yeah.
you were ready to get hired because your passion you know, obviously you were obsessed with it, just as I am obsessed with coaching now, and all my teachers
Yeah.
here were obsessed. And I think you have
Yeah.
to be somewhat obsessed about what your dream is and how to
100%.
go about getting it.
Yeah. And it's just, it's that you just, yeah, that drive just, I guess it was innate. Like it just kind of happened. I know Kelly says, her story, she's like, ever since she was a kid, she was acting and dancing and doing all this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't get it till high school, but I
That's
was doing my
okay.
own form of art. Like,
Some people don't get it until their 30s, into their
right,
40s. It doesn't matter.
right.
Artistry sits under everyone's soul because
Yeah.
everybody wants to be a performer. Every
Yeah.
single person in the world
Yeah.
loves someone pays them attention. So that little
Yeah.
ink is there.
And getting people out of their stuff, that's the entertaining factor of it is I mean, that's why theaters and movies and stuff like that were invented. It was back during the Depression. Get people out of their crap, you know what I mean? And go watch the silent movie with Charlie Chaplin and fumbling around and making people laugh. Like that type of stuff is what drives me, because one of my goals, and I always said this since I was like, when I first started, I was like, I just want to I want to star in my own movie, and I want to sit in the back of the theater and just like sneak in and just watch everybody either laugh or cry, or those dramatic pauses. Like that's the moment that I know that I've made it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's
Yeah.
what drives me, and just feeling those feels of it happening and it touching people. That's what we do this for, and that's what I love about it.
How can I
But
interrupt?
yeah,
I just want to sidetrack on this. How has soaps, because you've been on the soap for 8 years, 7 years, 8 years,
yeah,
has
Bold for 8, yeah.
has it changed? Has it changed in the truth of the work? Because soaps a long time ago had that little idea, like when you try out for a soap, you got to take that dramatic pause and then you have to do the thing, which is bullshit, obviously, because acting is acting and it's all in the truth. But has it
100%.
changed? Do you see the people that you're working with? Has their work just gotten better and deeper and richer because they're there for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, it's like soaps get a bad rap because you can develop bad habits. You
But like
can.
what? I don't, but like how? What is that bad habit? I never understood that.
Well, it's like what you just said, right? The stigma of it is those long, deep stares. But with the training,
Yeah.
I always worked on when I was doing classes, I'd do a scene in class and I'd take what I learned and I'd try it the next day at work, with whatever objective I'm going after, or whatever obstacle I'm faced with, or who my what my inner object is and who my substitution is for the person that I'm acting with. Like I would just try the things that I learned the night before or heard
Right.
about, and do it. Um, but one thing she'd never let me get away with. She's like, if that's a fake moment, I'm not gonna let you get away with it. Like I know it has to be deep rooted in something. So even though you're doing that long stare, it's gotta be because of that need or that drive.
Coaches feel the same way. If it's
Yeah.
if it's not truthful and filled in with a visual, then
Right.
forget it.
And you're doing it every day. So the bad habits can be that there's nothing really going on underneath. And you could tell it's a fake moment sometimes. When you watch it, you go, okay. He's trying to do the Joey Tribbiani smell the fart. And you're like, come, no, can't do that. You can't do that.
But it feels like it's changed to me. It feels like it doesn't have that stigma anymore, and it feels like it actually is a positive training ground. And also, if you're lucky enough to get involved in that world and stay in it, it's lucky.
100%. Like anybody who asks me for advice, like to become an actor, I say, do what you can to get on a soap, get in a class, obviously, get in, whatever acting class, Sherry Shaw. There's a bunch of names that you can find that are terrific, and take what you learn there and get a job on a soap, and just, you're getting paid to practice. You know what I mean? Like there is nothing wrong with a soap. There's some of the hardest working people. We do 80 to 100 we shoot 80 to 100 pages a day. On a primetime show, you're shooting 8 to 10, 15 at the most, you're doing a Hallmark movie.
And may I interject?
Yeah.
The writing is, there's just so much of it, and there's so much talk that's the boring part. It's
Yeah.
the emotional that you have to fill in. So there's so much going on. It's an incredible job to
Oh,
have, I would think. If I was still,
100%.
I'd want to be on a soap. I would
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, it's that the memorization, like you're saying too, you learn how to memorize things, and then you can memorize, 40 pages of dialogue, you know what I mean? And they give you maybe a couple times they give you like a bunch of changes, 5, 10 pages of changes in the morning, and you have to do that. And I can't tell you how invaluable that is when you're in an audition too. And they go, "You're not right for this part, but what about maybe this part? Do you want to come back another day?" I'm like, I don't know, you just give me 5 minutes, I can memorize it. Like, that's fine.
That is
You know?
incredible. So many times actors get so caught up in the words that they can't live in the life.
Yep.
That is a skill.
Yeah. Yeah. And you learn that on a soap, and learning where your lighting is and where your cameras are. Like when I was shooting Blue Mountain State, I can't tell you how many times, because, you know, we were a bunch of dudes in, like, it was college frat house comedy, whatever, and we'd be bouncing around and stuff. And sometimes, certain people would block my camera, and I would know how to
Oh,
just find the camera, just sort of deliver my line. And I can't tell you how many times, like, a camera guy would come up to me afterwards, go, "Oh, thank God he can't hit his mark." And I'm just going, I know, I got you. Don't worry about it.
that is a technical part that actors don't think about before they get jobs, of hitting your
Yeah.
mark, because you don't want to think about that. You just want to be free. You want the camera
Yeah.
to follow you, but you do.
Hmm.
Talk about that for a second, about hitting your mark. It's actually marked on the floor for you to hit that mark.
Yeah, it's but it's about finding that fluidity too, of making everything rooted in something, so you're not just standing there, because you can do that on a soap too. That's another bad habit, where you just stand there and you're not doing anything and you're just saying the lines. But it's like, when you're nervous about talking to someone about something, you'll find a prop and you'll use it to cover what you're trying to do.
Emotional
And
life, behavioral life, environmental life, three-dimensional life of the character at all times. But if there is a mark on that floor,
yeah.
what did you do when you were first starting? Because you knew you had to get there, but you don't want to just feel like a robot getting there.
Yeah.
You.
It, there were a couple of times I would try and, like, because I was on the soap, and I would just try things. Today is one day we shoot it, and the next day it'd be another day. It's like, well, but there were a couple of times where I remember, like, looking down at the mark and kind of like, I'm gonna try and find a way to make it look like I'm finding the mark, but make it look like I'm looking for something else or whatever. And I would, like, mosey on down like I'm kicking a rock or something, and I take that step in and do my thing. And it was just like, I was like, okay, cool. I saw the playback, and I, like, and it worked. Um, but you do, yeah, you do what you can, and you just kind of find those little tricks, but most importantly, like, the thing that I find is that you do need to find that fluidity. You do need to find that reason for stepping there, the reason for doing things underneath it all. Have those multiple layers of this character as to why they're doing what they're doing. um because the simplest thing of hitting that mark, there's a reason why that person is standing in that position with that person, talking about that thing, talking, touching that prop or doing this thing, and an objective that they're going after in this whole scene, and then an overall objective for the whole script as to what this person needs and wants at the core of it all. And it's just all those little details that you put
And
into it to make it.
after you've made those details, you have to let it all go and just trust that it's all there, and then just be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to
Mm-hmm.
do
And
all that homework to get to be in the moment.
yeah, and then just with what's in front of you, who's in front of you, and go off what they're doing and what they're playing and what they're throwing, and throw it back. And it's a dance, it's a boxing match.
It is. It definitely is. And thinking about what's being thrown at you, I just want to address the fact that you're in a closet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
this is.
think that if you had a self tape to do, if you were going in for a movie, that this would be your background. Can we talk about that for a second?
Well, to be honest with you, I do have a backdrop that pulls down
Oh,
right here, and it goes straight down. So we have our little shindig that is all set up and ready to go. This is the. I built this walk-in closet. I was like, I want, we needed something, like some room, because she has so much stuff, and I was like, we need to get something nice for you in here. But then it sort of became. She calls it her office. She comes in here, she shoots her videos, and she does her thing.
some people know that you're married to Kelly Kruger, but he's married to the incredible Kelly Kruger. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is the office for today, and we're shooting in the office.
It's cozy. I like it.
Cozy, yeah.
When you take care of yourself as an actor, to me, I teach, of course, we teach here at the studio all the important process, but to me, it's so incredibly important about eating healthy, sleeping, exercise. Is that a part of your agenda?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to. I think, it's the, you know, I think there's a lot of actors out there that do realize that it's like, your body is your tool as well, what character you're playing. A lot of people gain a lot of weight and they lose a lot of weight for certain roles and stuff like that, so that they can like really get into that.
Mhm.
um so I think your body and your mind and everything needs to be sharp and as tip top as it can be, because that's your instrument, it's your tool, in art. I think in any form, you know what I mean? For musicians, it's their voice and it's their hands and their fingers, and it's all that kind of stuff. And you kind of have to like use your body to, create that stuff. So you
True.
do need to be tip top.
Yeah, if you're putting in healthy foods and a lot of liquid, your mindset, it feeds everything, and then makes your mind fluid too, which is allows you to have the fluidity of emotions.
Exactly. Exactly. Otherwise, yeah, you clouded mind, clouded emotions. It's hard to like connect to a character sometimes because you were out partying too much the night before. You know what I mean? It's like, oh geez.
Yeah, but no
But
one can do that anymore, so that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, right. Not right now. Yeah. Nobody can't do that right now.
How has your life changed? Because now you have a family,
Hmm.
and it's important for balance. And you have to have balance. You're running to work, you're doing your appointments. Um, how's it changed for you?
That's, it's Kelly and I have a good dance. It's when she has to something she's got to study for or do, I jump in and I take the kid and try and give her as much time so she can study and focus as I can. um I hope, I mean, I don't know if I probably do better. I always try to find better ways to help, but and vice versa. And the great part is that Kelly and I met in the same acting class, so we kind of have the same way of working and everything. So when she has an audition, it's like, okay, well, now we have to kind of schedule it when our daughter's sleeping. We have like a 1 hour 2 hour window, but normally it's one because she
Yeah.
just wants to play. But we have that 1 hour to like get in there, and we're hard on each other sometimes. It's like, no, come on, that wasn't, you got to plug in something better. Like, we could do this, like, let's do this. And we kind of, we push each other to do better for that, for self tapes and things like that, that we get to sort of control the direction at home. And but life is, it's just interesting, and you learn about a lot about yourself too with the new baby, and
Mhm.
about love and power and things from your past that you could probably let go of, and that really don't matter anymore. But it's interesting. I mean, how has everything changed? I mean, it's just, I don't know, you kind of split up a little bit more time to focus on the kid, and that's about it. I mean, it's not it's a
It's a,
big change, but it's
it's a good
like,
change. It's a good
yeah,
change, really, of the family unit.
yeah. And I guess once you start getting that schedule, then it's like, oh, I don't really remember what it was like before.
Yeah,
I think, and then it's like, okay, well, we can do this. You just go and you do it.
yeah, you just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. What show would you like to transition to being on? Like, what shows do you watch that you really resonate? I know you're gonna say Succession because I just talked to
I
Kelly.
know she was just gonna say she probably just talked about that because we're like binging that hardcore right now, and it's like it's so good, and you really like have to pay attention. You can't be like on your phone doing something, you'll miss so much. The writing is phenomenal.
Yes,
Um so fine, I won't say Succession, but that would be
but Succession.
um yeah. I'd say, I mean, there were a lot of things that a lot of shows that we got into that we just really loved. Bloodline was another one that was awesome, just character piece, and just like this messed up family, and like, all this stuff that was going on underneath, just all the layers. Like, I thought they did a terrific job with that.
I
Uh
love it too.
yeah.
I think there
Uh
was talent in that show because I think that the most favorite character in the first season, it was given away that he died. So there was no place for it to go. It was just a little bit of mistake in the writing. And I think because that show could have lasted, it had
yeah,
heat, it had an energy to it, and it had the intrigue.
yeah, yeah, it was great. I mean, that's something that if they ever did again or whatever, it'd be phenomenal. I mean, those writers were just so great. You know, um, Damages was another one that seemed like it would be fun to be on. Obviously, Game of Thrones, it's like, big action, big things. I've always loved horses and swords and all that fun stuff. I'd love to do, a period piece like that.
With your schedule, is there an out time for you to do films on the side? How does that work for you?
With the soap, it's you know, the great part about Bold is that, Brad Bell, I mean, our EP, our head writer, is just he's so cool about it. His dad started Y&R and Bold the Beautiful back in the day. Like,
Wow.
he started both shows. Our show is 32 years and 33 years, and Young and the Restless is 40, 50 something. You know what I mean? And
Unbelievable.
so his family kind of grew up in it and everything. And he's really cool about it. If we don't have like a huge story where it's like, "Ah, we need to shoot you, you got 8 episodes this week." And it's like, okay, cool. But if your story's a little light, he's pretty cool about it. Like, as long as it doesn't mess with the production, he's like, okay, cool. And Hallmark movies are easy to do. Like, they're 1 week, 2 week shoots
Mhm.
around LA sometimes, or Canada or something, and you could pop out and do it. And also our schedule for Bold is really nice. Because we're only a half-hour show, we shoot 26 production weeks.
Wow.
So we have basically our schedule is it's really awesome. It's Tuesdays through Fridays we shoot, and we're normally 2 weeks on, 1 week off all year round.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah, and then a couple of weeks off for summer, a couple of weeks off for spring, 1 week off for Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. So it's like you can find time, and as long as we're shooting ahead and we have time to do it, he's cool. He's like, yeah, or we'll write you out and for a little bit and bring you back in. Like,
Oh, that's
he
amazing.
he's awesome about that. He's really awesome about that.
It's so important to have a team like that. So what do you have to put yourself on tape? Do you get offers? What's the story for you?
A little bit of both. I mean, sometimes we get offers, and a lot of times we're putting things on tape, especially now with COVID. It's crazy because it's all we're doing is tape, man, and Zoom and whatnot. And um, I don't know. I think maybe it's gonna head that direction just because it's easier. I don't know, but I mean, I, I miss and I don't miss the room
Yes.
because the room can be very. There's a lot of pressure. Auditioning. I hate it. I hate it.
Yes.
But when you can self tape and you can have fun, and Kelly and I are pushing each other and directing each other and doing fun things, and like, we set it up in the kitchen, and he's at the bar. So we'll set up a little whiskey and a little drink and this and shoot down the side. And, we kind of do like our little YouTube show. Um, you know, um, it's fun to kind of do that. I mean, the only downside is that you can't just ask the casting director or director or producer for notes right there. Do you want to see anything differently? Do you want to do anything differently? Whatever it is,
But in
sometimes.
callback, I think in callbacks now they are having that, unless it's straight from tape, which to me it seems like you'd want to call back. And I have many clients who are testing for shows on Zoom, and you have to sit in the waiting room on Zoom, and you got to take care of yourself in that waiting room in your home for 45 minutes while you're in that waiting room. So it's a whole different mind
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah. A different kind of waiting room, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think that it's going to stay this way for a while, but it will eventually, it'll be a mix, and then eventually we'll go back because we're artists and human connection is what it's all about.
100%. And the delay on Zoom sometimes is a killer,
Hmm.
especially when you're in a closet, and the connection's not very good.
So
You
funny.
know,
You were clear until you said that moment and you
I
froze on.
see,
That's
knew it was
very.
going to happen at least once. I was like, I knew it was going to happen.
So
Uh,
what's advice for some actors out there too? What's their setup? What could their setup should be? Because your background should be clear and clean and
Not this. Just
not no for a conversation. Yes, totally fine.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd say get a backdrop. It's not white. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of casting directors hate white backdrops and they hate white clothes and all that because it can bleed. Certain things can, like, it just looks weird and everything. I mean, getting some ring lights, that's one thing that she's a pro at, is like just all the different lights and all the things, because she does all the YouTube stuff and Instagram stuff too. I mean, it blows me away how much she knows about it.
Wow,
But getting some good lights, and they're not expensive.
not expensive.
You can get these little Kinos, on I'm breaking things. These things right here, you can get them on Amazon. They'll be there tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Amazon is the greatest creation of the
Yeah.
world.
Amazon is. It's gonna be our downfall, but it's the best thing ever because you
The,
can get everything.
the
Everything.
best. I
But yeah, I mean, I say get a couple of lights, 3 lights, get a nice backdrop. Like that one's a light blue color, so it's kind of a nice neutral color or something that you can kind of shoot up against. Um, get a good mic, because sometimes, if you don't have the acoustics of the clothes in here too. Sometimes, you might need a good light for that.
How
Uh,
important do you think, and I think it is, the opening moment when you're putting yourself on tape to
mhm,
bringing the audience into your world, because your job to bring them into your world, not after the first couple lines,
mhm.
for the first thought or movement of behavior. So do you work on that a lot and figure out that fine tuning of that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need that, and at the end. I
Yeah.
think life at the end too, I mean, it's beginning and ending. I think the best shows for me are the shows that when you watch, it's like they're in the middle of doing something and you're a fly on the wall watching this scene happen. Why is this scene happening right here at this moment? And where were you right beforehand? And where are you going to be afterwards? Like, you know, any like as many layers, I mean, just any little details and nuances and things you can put into it, I think is the best, just because it's not just, like I said, standing there on your mark and just standing stoically and delivering some lines. You just add all those layers, man. And so for me, yeah, it's the moments right before too. There's a lot of times I'll take a moment, even before saying anything, especially if it's a power scene. You're sitting there kind of gauging someone, whatever it may be, and enjoy that silence. And sometimes I'll leave it in the tape, a couple of seconds of that silence before that first line.
So do you feel actually more power and control with your auditions being on Zoom versus being in the room? Were you like a person that grabbed on that energy? Because man, it's hard because you can feel so good in the waiting room and then walk in and then the tension can cut you like a knife, and yet you still have to not take that energy and still
No.
do the story.
It's hard, the business is interesting because it's hard because you don't like you said, you don't know what you're walking into. That audition room, they could have had something that was just something they could have got a phone call that the show is now possibly going to be canceled tomorrow, and everybody's in the room like, oh shit.
Right.
Sorry, can I say that on here?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
But it's like that moment, you don't know what you're walking into, and it's like they still got to get through the day, but you just were the first guy right after that happened, and you have no idea that's happening.
No
So
idea.
you can't take that on. You just have to go in and hopefully like make that moment better for them.
How do you do that as an actor? How do you, Darin, do that? Do you breathe? Do you make a joke? Do you just let it roll off your shoulder? Do you just have that Hawaii
I'm a
island thing? What is it?
It's probably both of those. I'm gonna go with both of those. It's probably the island Hawaii where I'm just like, whatever, or joke. I like to make people laugh. So it's like I'll go in and whatever. If I feel like the tension's real, crazy, I'll go, oh geez, whose show got canceled? You gotta let me know. I don't know. I'll do something stupid. I mean, I'm self, deprecating a lot of times. And I just think it's like, I think a lot of people too, at the end of the day, casting director, producer, acting coach, actors, actresses, camera guys, they just want to work with people they like, and that you
Yes,
can spend time with them on set, because we're around each other 14 hours a day.
totally. You
And
don't
if
want you don't want the tension. You don't want someone who's going to bring in some kind of morose energy. But by making a joke,
mm,
you have the ability to make a joke in the room. And when
mm,
I was an actress years ago, I had that quality. Whenever I was able to, feeling super free and
yeah.
being able to make a joke, I would always score the role. But what
Mm.
does that come from you? Where do you get that? You personally get that extra bit of confidence, knowing that it's all good. What's
I
your
mean, I'd probably say it's a little bit of that island life, where it's like nothing, we live in paradise and nothing really matters, man. It's like just enjoy life.
moving? I'm moving.
Um,
I have to.
yeah, I mean, I keep telling her, I'm like, we got to get a place there at least so that I mean, my family's still there, but they got a 1 bedroom apartment, and I'm like, we got to get something bigger. Um, but also my mom was a very big go-getter. My mom's story, like I said, she was a flight attendant. She was a flight attendant when she was 18. And I didn't go to college either. I started and then I dropped out. And I'll tell you these little interesting stories about my parents real quick. My mom was 18. I'm gonna go see the world. I'm gonna go see everything. And her parents were like, no. And she was like, tough shit. I'm
Yeah.
going. So she left and she saw the world and she traveled everywhere. She had an apartment in New York or wherever with like, there were 8 flight attendants and 4 bunk beds, but everybody was flying at different times. So it was like there'd always be 4 beds, but for 8 people. Um,
Incredible.
and it was all that type of stuff. So she was the type that was kind of like, a go-getter in her sense of like, I want to see the world, I want to eat that food, I want to meet people. And
Mm.
she's a my mom's funny, man. My mom loves joking. Kelly loves getting on the phone with my mom because my mom's like, she doesn't care, you know what I mean? And so I think I probably get that from her. She's also, I mean, I'm a Gemini, she's a Gemini. I think we just kind of, you know, we'd love to be the life of the party, you know, a lot of times. And then, but my dad was in the Navy back in the day during
Wow.
Vietnam.
Extreme, extreme personalities.
Yeah. I mean, he's still a surfer. Like he was still like laid back surfer, Malibu, grew up Malibu, Santa Monica. Like that was a stomping ground. Like they would like, you know, throw parties out at the end of the pier and charge a cover at the front of the pier.
That's
Um,
old days.
but he was in the draft and he had to go to Vietnam and he had 2 years of college, community college under his belt. So for him, college meant a lot to him because it basically saved his life. They
Mhm.
literally had like his platoon, his squad, whatever. And one of his buddies, Balkowitz, you know, picked him out of a lineup, you know, Don Brooks, so and so, so and so, and so and so, please step out of the line. And everybody else, you're getting shipped off. You four, because you have a little bit of college experience, you're going to be typists in the office and stuff like that. And my
Yeah.
dad was like, okay, you know, found out later the boat that he was supposed to be on, the machine gunner in the back of the boat unfortunately got blown up. So his education saved
Oh,
his life.
wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I felt bad about not going to college, but at the time when I was 18 and I was in acting class there and I had met those people that said, if you ever come to LA, you just give me a call. There were certain signs that were maneuvering me to feel comfortable with doing it and make them feel comfortable doing it. And like I was meant to do that. I was meant to be in this business. I was meant to be in this industry.
Yes.
So when I dropped out, my dad was like, he was a little pissed,
Yeah.
but my mom was like, I'll talk to him.
Don't worry
Just,
about it. So you also
yeah,
you have the support, and it's just so important. And hopefully that will teach you as a parent. You got to support. You got to have that system. That system
100%.
builds you up, and everybody around you in the world that is in your life, they have to be able to build you up. I think that story is fascinating.
Yeah, it's
You
interesting, you
never
know.
know. You never know what path is going to happen.
Yeah.
And on the flip note of that, you can always get your college degree.
I know. I'm like, I can always go back to college. You can always go back and do that. Well, there was a story on the news yesterday. A woman was just going back to college to finish her degree or something. And I think she was like 80. And I was like, there's always time.
There's always time and there's always opportunity. It is
Yeah.
what you make of your life to do. Before we close out, and
Yeah,
thank you so much for hanging out,
of course.
give the actors listening three pieces of advice that you tell them to stay in a positive mindset, to pursue their dreams, and not give up.
I would say, you know, like we talked about earlier, you know, you have to find a way to not take on other people's stuff, other people's negativity. You know, a lot of times you can tell when somebody's being kind of rude to you or a dick or whatever. And it can happen in a casting room, it can happen on set, it can happen wherever where you're working with somebody that like, you know, is just not liking you for some reason. And you can't win them all, but you can't take it on as yourself. And there's no point in getting revenge or anything like that. It's just, you know, I was always taught to kind of turn the other cheek and just kind of let things slide. Um, and just, you know, make a joke. A lot of times that works. Um, but don't take it on as your own. You know, you kind of have to have a little bit of a strong mind to just know that somebody else is going through something. You don't know what it is. You don't know what their story is. And just, you know, let them do their thing. Like you have to find a way to just like let it go, you
Mhm.
know? And a way to do that too is finding things you like to do, like we talked about, you know, keeping, you know, your health and body right, you know, and doing that. Working out, man, it just helps your mind, it helps everything, you know, doing something even if it's for 15 minutes a day or going on a walk, you know, just being out in nature and taking your shoes off and putting your feet in the grass, just getting grounded a little bit works wonders to just clear your mind. I love boxing since I can't really surf. I mean, I surf out here a little bit, but the water's cold and dirty, so I'm a little spoiled. Um, but I like to box. You know, it's a nice full body workout, but just to kind of just to hit something feels good sometimes, right? Um, and My biggest piece of advice is just if you're meant to do it and you know you're meant to do it, like just do it. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no reason for you not to pursue it. If this is what you want to do and you've always wanted to do anything, that goes for anything, whether you're a real estate agent or you wanted to be a dentist or whatever, and you feel a little down about it, like you can't get deterred by the negativity and the crap and the people telling you no or telling you you're green or whatever. Just do something that will do something where you can learn, I say, because you can always learn. You're never going to know everything. Like I'm going to be learning till I'm 95. You're always going to be learning something new.
Yes.
And acting class is one of those things that like you can never stop learning from it, because it's not just you. When you watch other people do scenes, you learn things from them and what they're going through, or possible substitutions or stuff from your past that you can relate to, that you can think about, oh, that could connect in my next scene tomorrow. That actually works in my life as well. Like you just pay attention and learn. Don't just go for your class. Like go in and immerse yourself in everything that you can learn, whether it's writing, directing, producing, lighting, cameras, but acting class. Like get in and learn, read books. Like, you know, it, some people just find it and they go, okay, cool, I've got my first show and that's it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you have to keep learning. Like it's never ending. This life is, that's what we're meant to do. We learn from people that know everything and experience, and then we have kids and they're learning from us.
Possibilities are endless. The open possibilities are endless. And you have to learn as artists in order to use it and
Yeah,
infuse it in your work. Darin, thank you so much for hanging out.
yeah,
Sending love to you and your family.
thank
Guys
you.
out there, stay courteously aggressive, stay in a positive mindset, and we see you soon.
Amen.
Thanks.
Thanks.